Hello, and in this tutorial I wanted to quickly talk about smoothing. So often what we want to do is when we're modeling objects, what we don't want is hard polygonal faces. What we want is smooth organic surfaces. Now often students or people that are modeling for the first time achieve this by creating extremely dense meshes. Now, very dense meshes are very ineffective. They require a lot of memory to render. They take a lot of processing time. They're not easy to port around. And there is no need to have meshes as dense as that. So what we can actually do is use something called smoothing. So we can actually just smooth our polygons out. So what I can do is, what you want to do is make sure that in your shading you've got smooth shade all selected, okay, and then to apply smoothing to your cubes, and one of the things I wanted to point out as well is these are exactly the same size cubes, but their topology, i.e. the mesh that defines them, is slightly different. So you can see that this is actually made up of just one division. This is made up of a number of like 4 subdivisions for each face, and then this is subdivided even further. Okay, so you can see this is made up of a denser mesh. It's the same cube but made up of a denser mesh, and what you'll find is this will make the smooth mesh behave slightly differently. What I'm going to do, just so we can see that a bit more clearly, is turn on the wireframe shader. So you can see that this is the same cube but made up of slightly different meshes. Now to smooth a cube, so to turn smoothing on, what we do is we just click on, highlight a cube, and we just press 3. And I'm going to do that for all the cubes. Okay, and you can see that what it does is it just takes the edges and it just smooths them. So you can see that because there's so little detail making up this mesh, it smoothed it to the point where this is actually a sphere. Okay, quite a useful way of making a sphere in a way, but we'll go into that another time. But this has basically smoothed it into a sphere. Again, this has smoothed it, but not so much because of the extra subdivisions. And again, this has smoothed it, but not so much because of the extra subdivisions. So what I'm trying to highlight here is that there is a need to control your smoothing, and typically you control your smoothing by putting edges close together along the side to kind of get a sharper edge. I'll just demonstrate that if I go into my just going to go into my component edge mode, and I'm going to double click here and select this edge, and if I move this edge up, you can see how it's refining, how it's sharpening up this edge here. Okay, that's only doing it to a point. What you want to do is possibly add some extra edges as well. So what I might want to do is take this edge here and move that up to the edge as well, just to kind of help define that. One of the things to be careful of is trying to refine shapes purely in the smooth view. What I do is when I'm modeling, often I'm moving between this view and that view to kind of see what I'm doing, because quite often you can't see clearly how you're affecting the mesh. So for example, if I want to try and get a hard edge on this, if I turn off the smoothing, select this edge and move it up, okay, I can see more clearly exactly what's happening with that mesh. What I've probably done is probably messed up this edge a little bit. I'm just having a look at that. Yeah. So you can see that I've kind of messed this edge up a little bit. What I need to do is I think I need to actually pull down this edge. Let's see if we can do that. There we go, to correct it. So I had actually messed up that edge there. Okay, again, because I was manipulating it in the smooth view, you can't really see accurately what is happening to the polygon. So often if you want to create a hard edge, it's worth sort of manipulating it in this sort of view where it's flat shaded, by pressing 1, and then go into the smooth view by pressing 3. Okay, and then you can see exactly what you've done to that edge. And you can see that we're getting the sort of result that we want. Just to give you an idea what that looks like then, if I go onto this character, you can see that that technique is being used a lot here, where you can see that there's lots of edges close together. So if I just, let's go into, so if I look at the hand here, you can see that I'm looking at it in the flat shade view at the moment, but if I press 3, you can see how, so in the flat shade view, I'm just going to try and dolly this in a little bit. You can see how we've got edges very close together. We've got edges very close together here, and those are and when we apply the smoothing, you can see how that's helping to create a crease around here, or a sort of a sharp edge around here. Not so sharp. We don't want it infinitely sharp, but it to be reasonably rounded. Okay. An interesting thing about edges is you don't want edges to be really, really sharp. Nothing has an infinitely sharp edge, and actually having a slight round edge on there means that when you do your light and you apply a specular material and you light it up, you'll get that highlight around the edge, and you'll end up with a much more natural looking render than if this was just a some right angle edges meeting up. So right angle edges meeting up might look right now, but when you start rendering it, you want to have that slight edge, that slight curve in there is really, really important. But you'll learn that more as we go into kind of topology and how that relates to subdivisions.